guys, welcome back to our channel Footprints Abroad, and today we're going to show you top 10 awesome places to visit in Norway, one of the coolest countries in the world. I'll also share with you some tips on how to save money, where to stay, and what to eat in Norway. But before we move further in this video, you can support our channel by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel so that we can continue making these free travel guide videos for you. Having said that, let's get started. Oslo. The first place I visited was Oslo, the capital and biggest city of Norway. Oslo is a fun and modern city with a lot of stuff to do, see, and eat. Some of the things I did were the Viking Ship Museum, where I saw 3 old Viking ships that were used for funerals and adventures. They were pretty impressive and made me feel like a Viking myself. The Kon-Tiki Museum, where I learned about the crazy trips of Norwegian explorer Thor Heyerdahl across the Pacific Ocean on a wooden raft. He was either very brave or very stupid, or maybe both. The Oslo Cathedral, a nice old church with a fancy interior and a big organ. It was pretty cool to see, but I didn't stay too long because I'm not very religious. I spent 2 days in Oslo, and I think that was enough to see the main stuff. The best time to visit Oslo is from May to September, when the weather is nice and warm. The average cost of a hotel room in Oslo is about $150 per night, but you can find cheaper places on Airbnb or hostels. The average cost of a meal in Oslo is about $20. You can save money by cooking your own food or eating at street stalls. Bergen. The next place I visited was Bergen, the second biggest city in Norway and the entrance to the famous fjords. Bergen is a cute and historic city with colorful wooden houses, stone streets, and a fish market. Some of the things I did were Bryggen, the old wharf area that dates back to the 14th century and was once a big trading center for some German dudes. It's now a UNESCO World Heritage Site with museums, shops, and cafes. Fantoft Stave Church, an awesome wooden church that was built in the 12th century and rebuilt after a fire in 1992. It's one of the few remaining examples of medieval wood architecture in Norway. KOD Art Museums of Bergen, a collection of 4 museums that show Norwegian and international art, including works by Edvard Munch, Pablo Picasso, and Claude Monet. I spent 1 day in Bergen, and I think that was enough to see the main stuff. The best time to visit Bergen is from June to August, when the weather is mild and dry. The average cost of a hotel room in Bergen is about $120 per night, but you can find cheaper places on Airbnb or hostels. The average cost of a meal in Bergen is about $18, but you can save money by cooking your own food or eating at street stalls. Flåm. The next place I visited was Flåm, a small village at the end of Fjord, one of the branches of Fjord, the longest and deepest fjord in Norway. Flåm is a popular tourist spot because of its beautiful location and its amazing railway. Some of the things I did were the Flåm Railway, one of the most awesome train rides in the world that takes you from Flåm to Myrtle through steep mountains, waterfalls, and tunnels. It's also one of the steepest railways in the world with a gradient of 5.5%. The Flåm Church, a lovely white wooden church that was built in 1667 and has a rich history and decoration. The Flåm Brewery, a local brewery that makes craft beers using pure mountain water and local ingredients. You can take a tour of the brewery and taste some of their beers. I spent half a day in Flåm, and I think that was enough to see the main stuff. The best time to visit Flåm is from May to September, when the weather is nice and the fjord is not frozen. The average cost of a hotel room in Flåm is about $200 per night, but you can find cheaper places on Airbnb or campsites. The average cost of a meal in Flåm is about $25, but you can save money by cooking your own food or eating at the bakery. Geirangerfjord. The next place I visited was Geirangerfjord, one of the most famous and beautiful fjords in Norway. It's also a UNESCO World Heritage Site and a natural wonder. Some of the things I did were the Seven Sisters Waterfall, a group of 7 waterfalls that fall down the opposite side of the fjord from another waterfall called the Suder. They are named after a legend that says that the suitor tried to woo the sisters but was rejected by all of them. The Dalsnibba Viewpoint, a mountain peak that offers a stunning panoramic view of the fjord and the surrounding mountains. You can drive up to the viewpoint or take a bus from Geiranger village. The Geiranger Skywalk, a glass platform that extends over the edge of a cliff and gives you a thrilling sensation of walking on air. It's located at the Flåm Railway viewpoint, which is another great spot to admire the fjord. I spent one day in Geirangerfjord, and I think that was enough to see the main stuff. The best time to visit Geirangerfjord is from June to August, when the weather is sunny and the waterfalls are at their fullest. The average cost of a hotel room in Geirangerfjord is about $180 per night, but you can find cheaper places on Airn or campsites. The average cost of a meal in Geirangerfjord is about $22, but you can save money by cooking your own food or eating at the supermarket. Preikestolen. The next place I visited was Preikestolen, also known as Pulpit Rock, one of the most iconic and awesome landmarks in Norway. It's a huge flat rock that sticks out over Leisfjord, 604 meters above sea level. Some of the things I did were the Preikestolen hike, a 4-hour round-trip hike that takes you from the Preikestolen Mountain Lodge to the top of the rock. It's a moderate hike with some steep sections, but it's well-marked and rewarding. The Preikestolen view, a breathtaking view of Leisfjord and the surrounding mountains from the edge of the rock. You can also see Bolten, another famous rock formation that hangs between two cliffs from here. The Preikestolen sunrise, a magical experience of watching the sun rise over the fjord from the rock. You can either camp overnight near the rock or join a guided tour that starts early in the morning. I spent half a day in Preikestolen, and I think that was enough to see the main stuff. The best time to visit Preikestolen is from April to October, when the weather is mild and the trail is open. The average cost of a hotel room in Preikestolen is about $100 per night, but you can find cheaper places on Airn or campsites. The average cost of a meal in Preikestolen is about $15, but you can save money by cooking your own food or eating at the lodge. Trolltunga. The next place I visited was Trolltunga, also known as Troll's Tongue, another amazing and challenging rock formation in Norway. It's a thin piece of rock that sticks out horizontally from a mountain, 700 meters above Ringdalsvatnet Lake. Some of the things I did were the Trolltunga hike, a 10-hour round-trip hike that takes you from Skjeggedal to Trolltunga. It's a hard hike with steep climbs, rocky terrain, and changing weather conditions, but it's also very rewarding. The Trolltunga view, incredible view of Ringdalsvatnet Lake and the Hardangerfjord region from Trolltunga. You can also see Foldufannet Glacier, Norway's third largest glacier, from here. The Trolltunga photo, an unforgettable photo opportunity of standing or sitting on Trolltunga with the awesome backdrop behind you. You have to be careful and patient though, as there might be a long queue and strong winds. I spent one day in Trolltunga, and I think that was enough to see the main stuff. The best time to visit Trolltunga is from June to September, when the weather is warmer and the trail is safer. The average cost of a hotel room in Troll. Lofoten Islands. The next place I visited was Lofoten Islands, a group of islands in northern Norway that are famous for their stunning scenery, wildlife, and culture. Lofoten Islands are a paradise for nature lovers and photographers, with endless opportunities to explore and enjoy. Some of the highlights of my visit were the Geirangerfjord hike, a 2-hour round-trip hike that takes you to one of the best viewpoints in Lofoten Islands, overlooking the picturesque village of Reen and its surrounding mountains and fjords. It's a steep and challenging hike, but the view is worth it. The Henningsyr fishing village, a charming and colorful village that is known as the Venice of Lofoten Islands because of its location on several small islands connected by bridges. It's a great place to experience the local culture, cuisine, and art. The Lofoten Viking Museum, a museum that recreates a Viking chieftain's farm from the 9th century with authentic buildings, artifacts, and activities. You can learn about Viking history, lifestyle, and beliefs, and even join a Viking feast. I spent 2 days in Lofoten Islands, and I think that was enough to see the main sights. The best time to visit Lofoten Islands is from June to August, when the weather is mild and the midnight sun is visible. The average cost of a hotel room in Lofoten Islands is about $140 per night, but you can find cheaper options on Airn or Roberts, traditional fishermen's cabins. The average cost of a meal in Lofoten Islands is about $23, but you can save money by cooking your own food or eating at local cafes. Svalbard. The next place I visited was Svalbard, a remote archipelago in the Arctic Ocean that belongs to Norway. Svalbard is one of the most unique and adventurous places to visit in Norway, as it offers a chance to see polar bears, glaciers, icebergs, and northern lights. Some of the things I did were the Longyearbyen town, the largest settlement and the administrative center of Svalbard. It's a small but lively town with museums, shops, restaurants, and bars. It's also the base for many tours and activities in Svalbard. The Polar Bear Safari, a guided tour that takes you by boat or snowmobile to the areas where polar bears are most likely to be seen. It's an amazing experience to observe these majestic animals in their natural habitat, but also a risky one as they are dangerous and unpredictable. The Pyramiden ghost town, an abandoned Soviet mining town that was once home to over 1,000 people. It's now a frozen time capsule that preserves Soviet architecture, propaganda, and relics. You can visit Pyramiden by boat or snowmobile from Longyearbyen. I spent 3 days in Svalbard, and I think that was enough to see the main stuff. The best time to visit Svalbard is from March to May, when the weather is cold but sunny. The snow conditions are good for snowmobiling and skiing, and the polar bears are active. The average cost of a hotel room in Svalbard is about $200 per night, but you can find cheaper places on Airbnb or guest houses. The average cost of a meal in Svalbard is about $30, but you can save money by cooking your own food or eating at local pubs. Jotunheimen National Park. The next place I visited was Jotunheimen National Park, one of the most popular hiking spots in Norway. Jotunheimen means the home of the giants in Norwegian, and it's true as it contains some of the highest mountains in Scandinavia. Some of the things I did were the Bergen Ridge hike, a 6-hour round-trip hike that takes you along a narrow ridge between two lakes with different colors, Gjend, green, and Bestvatnet, blue. It's one of the most famous and scenic hikes in Norway, but also one of the hardest ones. The Galdhøpiggen Summit hike, a 4-hour round-trip hike that takes you to the top of Galdhøpiggen, the highest mountain in Norway and Northern Europe at 2,469 meters above sea level. It's a relatively easy hike, with an awesome view of the surrounding peaks and glaciers. The glacier hiking, a guided tour that takes you to one of the many glaciers in Jotunheimen, such as Nygårdsbreen or Smorstadbreen. You can learn about the formation and movement of glaciers and walk on the ice with crampons and ice axes. I spent 2 days in Jotunheimen National Park, and I think that was enough to see the main stuff. The best time to visit Jotunheimen National Park is from June to September, when the weather is warm and the trails are clear of snow. The average cost of a hotel room in Jotunheimen National Park is about $160 per night, but you can find cheaper places on Airbnb or cabins. The average cost of a meal in Jotunheimen National Park is about $20, but you can save money by cooking your own food or eating at mountain lodges. The last place I visited was Røros, a historic mining town that is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Røros is one of the oldest towns in Norway, and it has preserved its wooden buildings, cobblestone streets, and traditional crafts. Some of the things I did were the Røros Museum, a museum that tells the story of Røros and its mining industry, which lasted for over 300 years. You can see exhibits, models, and artifacts related to the mining history, culture, and environment. The Røros Church, a magnificent Baroque church that was built in 1784 and is one of the largest churches in Norway. It has a rich interior with paintings, sculptures, and organs. The Røros Market, an annual winter market that takes place in February and attracts thousands of visitors and vendors. You can buy local products, handicrafts, food and drinks, and enjoy live music, entertainment, and activities. I spent 1 day in Røros, and I think that was enough to see the main stuff. The best time to visit Røros is from December to March, when the weather is cold and snowy, and the town is decorated with lights and candles. The average cost of a hotel room in Røros is about $140 per night, but you can find cheaper places on Airbnb or guest houses. The average cost of a meal in Røros is about $18, but you can save money by cooking your own food or eating at local cafes. That's it for my Norway travel video. I hope you liked it and got some inspiration for your own trip to Norway. Norway is an awesome country with so much to offer, from nature to culture to adventure. It's definitely one of my favorite places in the world, and I can't wait to go back someday. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.